All right, everybody, welcome. This is March 15th. I believe this is season 2, episode 8 of Web3 by 3 podcast. This is your business insights into the Web3 developments on the business, marketing, and sales angles. With me this week, as always, my co-hosts, Michelle Peterson Clark, the content marketing queen,
Hey everyone.
and Mike Neubauer, your ops guy.
How's it going?
This week, we are talking about bank failures, Chat GPT-4, and de-influencers, whatever that means. We're going to be talking about how Web3 tech is changing marketing, if you hadn't noticed. So there are 6 predictions that we will be sharing on how Web3 tech is changing marketing. This will be coming from an article and we'll be commenting on it. But our goal here is to bring business, sales, marketing, and operational insight into Web3 in a practical sense for everyday people. That's why this show exists. So before we get going, I'm going to say this is, we need to acknowledge what's going on in the banking sector. For those who aren't following the news, the U.S. is having some banking trouble, and it's actually spreading to Europe on the Credit Suisse side. In the U.S., Silvergate, Silicon Valley Bank, and Signature Bank have all collapsed. They've been taken over by the government all in the same week. Fears of contagion, etc. We believe, obviously, this connects to Web3 in that it affects several different aspects, which we'll explore now. But let's go around the horn and get some thoughts on that before we tackle the main marketing topic. Mike, can we start with you?
Yeah, let's go. I mean, obviously, this is your area, so I hope you have enough time for comments and what your take is on all this. But this is the big elephant in the room, and frankly, it was extremely predictable. The behaviors and everything that was happening. I mean, this is only a matter of time before this party became a hangover, and we're dealing with the hangover now. And the one challenge that I see, which will benefit Web3 in certain capacities, is that this is somehow centralizing the banking system. It's putting everything under the thumb of government, making sure that government will always have the back of these types of institutions to protect the investors, to protect the depositors. And I think that, frankly, if it becomes more centralized, more people are going to be cautious of those institutions that they put their investments and their funds in, which opens the door to crypto, Web3, those types of decentralized solutions, which is really what spawned this technology in the first place.
Good points. Michelle, what are your thoughts on what's going on in the banking sector and how this may affect Web3's development?
So we talked a lot, didn't we, about the environment in which banks and businesses and institutions operate now. So there's been lots of threads about this, and I've read lots of different things, and not necessarily from the type of angle, Mark, that you'll bring because of your financial background. But a couple of the things that came out of this was how this happened is really because of the environment we're in. So the fact that everyone walks around with one of these now means that they're on their Twitter or in their private, investment groups, and it started with, hey, they've been doing XYZ. I'm not really keen about this. I think that if you've got money in, SBV, then perhaps you should move it. So someone just pulls out their phone, goes onto their banking app, and immediately their money can be moved. Now, in the old days, we would had to have, left where we were, gone down the road to the bank, gone into the bank, et cetera, et cetera. And that's if you, assuming you had another bank account opened. Some of the stories I've read are that people were literally opening a new bank account on their phone and then transferring the money out. So we're talking maybe 15 or 20 minutes later, they were able to move money. So the speed of the environment that we live in now also contributed to this. And as Mike has said, this is the hangover that we've got from, that rolling stone that started with FTX and isn't going to stop here. Unfortunately, in this particular case with SBB, it was really, it isn't like when Lehman Brothers and all of that, which you can talk expertly about, Mark, to us. It wasn't the big financial institutions and, multi-million-dollar investors. A lot of these businesses that had money in this bank are just like us. they're startups, or they're new, or they're employing people who have got mortgages and who are putting their kids in school and all of that stuff at that really low level, which wasn't necessarily how it was in the global financial crisis in 2008. So, that's where it's a bit different now. And the speed in which we are able to respond now is a very different environment than we've had before.
So I'll comment for those who don't know, I was at Lehman Brothers in 2008 in September when the bank went under, and I had a 3-month-old and a 2-year-old at the time. So I can relate to that. And I really do feel for all these people that are impacted, unfortunately. However, I have a bee in my bonnet with the regulators in this one, because I feel like this is the same old replay. This is, everyone knew valuations, et cetera. You could argue it's different. There's arguments it's not a bailout because it's only the depositors and not the investors that are being helped. It doesn't matter. There's 3 aspects that I want people to be aware of with regards to Web3. This whole banking sector shenanigans. The first one is social media. There's talk about social media culpability, that social is being blamed for bank runs because people can digitally move money quickly now, right? Your point, Michelle. That's like in the equivalent of 1929 shutting off the radio and the television so there could be no bank runs. I have a problem with that. Number 2 is there's rumors, this is tinfoil hat, Mike, of crypto kibosh, right? This is the government getting a handle on crypto by shutting down the banks that become the payment mechanisms. Signature Bank was one of the big gateways. There's a piece out from former Congressman Barney Frank, for those who don't know, talking about how this is the government using this opportunity, never let a crisis go to waste, to help rein in crypto. And the third is the tech layoffs that are going to result, and still are, Facebook, more coming, because that impacts innovation. For those who aren't aware of how the venture capital world works, the VCs invest in a whole bunch of companies that they know most of them won't make it. That's okay. They run them at a burn rate, they lose money, but then the few that do pay for the rest. But when there's this crisis going on, they're going to slim down those portfolios of companies that would have been great companies, some of them. And lots of really expensive people in good jobs, engineers who know what they're doing, are going to be out of work. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's the way it went with the traders and the finance folks in 08. And that impacts innovation specifically in Web3. You already have a tentative crowd that's like, we don't know if Web3 is real or not. And now this sets that back, in my opinion.
I think that you're spot on with the bone to pick with the regulation side of this. And let's not call it something different. It totally is a bailout. And the government doesn't make or produce anything, so we're the ones that are once again bailing out these institutions. But let's not forget about the term that Michelle used pretty frequently, in its environment. And I would use the environment in a different context. The environment itself is, I guess, this is a result of what the environment had created. You inflate the economy with all of this money from COVID and all these other things, and you raise the interest rates at this rapid rate to try to control this inflation. What do you think is going to happen to all the investments that these little banks put in over that period of time? I mean, people had money. They were putting that money in the banks. The banks don't just sit on it in a lock and key vault somewhere. They take it and they invest it. They'll buy government bonds with it. They'll buy, invest into other startups. But when the interest rate is now superseding to what they can offload those assets for, this whole thing is just the tip of the spear of where this ends up, man.
So there's a thing called fractional reserve banking. It's what you say, Mike. When they put $1 in the bank for safekeeping, the bank lends out 10 against it. So this is fabricated money. And that's okay. It works great in an up environment, but we're in a down environment right now. And so banks are pulling in their loans. You're going to see the drying up of mortgages, bank loan, business loans, anything where there was bridge loans, anything that used to fund innovation and business is going to be pulled in. So,
but with the interest rates this high too, you're also not talking about a sustainable model for people taking money out and borrowing. Right. So like that longevity on the interest payments that those banks would accrue, they're not going to be on the books either. So now they're left with this bad paper, this bad debt, and people coming in to take their money out. Like this is the recipe of how this whole thing collapses.
I also want to give a different view on because this affects cryptocurrencies, and that's not our primary focus, but a different view on the economics of valuing things in US dollars. If there's X number of dollars in the system, call it what you will, and you double that number, well, now you need double the number of dollars to buy the thing. right? That's the value has been affected. The value doesn't get affected. The number of dollars does. My point is, when Bitcoin is going up, that's really the US dollar going down. And if they're going to be printing a bunch of money to bail out these banks, which they're doing, and they're calling it not a bailout, this means Bitcoin and all those things are going higher. And that's not to say this is not investment advice. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't think that anyone should do or not do anything. But I just want to say that there's a price that gets paid in inflation when when the gas prices and the food prices. That's where that's my issue with all of this. It really is.
Well, they tend to take those variables out of the equation when they try to hype up their own numbers, right? They take fuel and food out of the equation when they talk about inflation numbers. But people who sit around this dining room table look at their checkbooks and they say, okay, something's wrong here, right? So how can I take my money out of this establishment, which is now costing me more money to live, and put it in play where I can get a better yield on those results? And again, I'm not offering a financial advice or investment advice either. But crypto or Web3 related activities remove that centralized component to a certain degree that might make people feel a little bit more comfortable on where those assets sit.
It's the Web3
And
economics section. Go ahead, Michelle.
And certainly, the way the interest rates all over are going. We were reading a story this morning about a guy in Australia who's earning $130,000 a year, and he's like, I can't afford my house anymore. His interest rate, 2 months ago was $1,000 a month, and now, or $1,200 a month, and now it's $4,000 because he was on a fixed interest at 1.8%, and now it's like 4.5% or 5%, just like that overnight. So those sorts of things are, the large numbers that people have borrowed during the good times, in inverted commas, are going to come back to buy. And it's no different for businesses who have lines of credit, or if they've borrowed money for expansion, or, even as cash flow to fund, the next 6 months of their business. They might find now that the money's going to last 2 months because of it. So, it's as Mike has said, this is not the last we'll talk about it. It's not the last we'll heard of it, and it's going to keep going for a while yet.
The one thing I will say is the investment opportunities, both on the business and personal front, will come in the next year. So, moving us on to story 2, and the main focus of this whole topic today. Believe it or not, ChatGPT is 100 days old. That's it. And so there's an article that caught our attention out of Marketing Dive. 100 days of frenzied hype around generative AI. They talk about how the multimodal GPT-4, which was scheduled to be released tomorrow, but actually came out last night here in the States, is now going to change the game, right? It's multimodal, meaning it can produce videos, etc. 60% of consumers say that ChatGPT will impact society in ways we don't yet understand. I think none of us would disagree with that. And so the 6 predictions this article goes on to make, and I wanted us to comment on because I'm curious as well as you guys. The 6 are this. This is how Web3 marketing will change. Number 1, content creation. AI creates copy and content faster. We know that. Number 2, search ownership. Microsoft versus Google, right? The power structure here may be changing. Number 3 is ad effectiveness. It is algorithmically driven ad placement performs better. Number 4, tech scales faster. AI chatbots, assistants, we're seeing this already. Number 5, email efficiency. Email outreach can now be automated at a level we've never seen. And number 6, social media shifting. Both Meta and Snap now have AI features, which allows you to build and create tools on platform, which is leading to AI personas, which should be coming soon. So we're going to start with Mike on this one. Mike, I'd love to hear if you think this is on the money, off the money. What's your thoughts on how these Web3 changes in marketing we may be seeing?
Well, you're looking at this 100-day evolution, right? Such a short window, and so many things have happened. And again, I'm still very skeptical on the use cases of the technology. We've seen so many people that have come out so far and have tried to monetize it in so many different ways without a true understanding of the power that this technology could yield. Hey, sign up for my course and I can do this and that, and I'm an expert in prompts when the thing's only been around for 100 days. Look, the reality is that even the people who are in this nonstop still truly don't understand where this could go. I still feel that there is a puppet master pulling the puppet strings here, and that's just something we need to be conscious of. if we rely on this technology to replace the human element that is required in business across the board, marketing, sales. I read somewhere today that it could even do your taxes for you. Like if we remove the human elements of this, we are in some serious trouble, because now we are relying on this to be the God's truth, and somebody still has to have a valid input on where that truth source comes from.
Linda, what do you? I'm sorry, Michelle. I apologize. What do you think?
So my husband is VP blockchain and DevOps for a company, Bolt.global. And I said to him today, I think you're going to have to upgrade your title to include prompt engineer.
That's a real thing.
Yeah. And he's like, what on earth is a prompt engineer? And I'm like, well, apparently it's going to be one of the most sought after jobs in the next 12 months. He's like, we better find out about it. So we had a look at the developers Chat GPT-4 video that came out. I'm just about to put the link to that in, I've just done it, in the chat so that people can have a look. But it's pretty fascinating. And yes, what Mike said, so what you can do with Chat GPT-4, which it would appear is so much better than the 3 version, you can actually make parameters and give it settings. So you can say, I'm a tax accountant taking the, I earn X number of dollars a year, taking the tax law which I give you, which you put into your search box, tell me how much I have to pay in taxes for next year, and it gives you an answer. So, there's all sorts of things like that. There's another example where they've got, they've drawn up a handwritten example on a piece of paper of what they want their website to look like. They've scanned it in, and then they've said, produce me a website that has these, links and these boxes and this parameter, and it comes out and actually produces a website for you. So, they're, from that point of view, it's pretty incredible. Agreed, Mike, with Mike, is that there is a human element, and there always has to be. As we've talked about on this show many times before, there is no nuance with it. There is no opinion. There is no thought leadership in what it does. It is a tool, and yes, it's a pretty amazing tool, and it's pretty incredible. But if everyone just produces everything on their their timelines or their social media chats or their website that is created by ChatGPT, there will be no difference between me and you and the next person and the person down the road. That is not what you want to be as a business operator and a business owner. What you want to be is you want to have a differentiation from someone. So that's where the nuances come in. That's where your experience comes in. That's where your opinion comes in. And we are going to have to use that to make ourselves stand out. So yes, you're going to get the 20-year-olds or the 18-year-olds who are going to create more courses now with Chat GPT-4 that they did with Chat GPT-3, and they're going to try and sell them and whatever, as it said, it's 100 days old, and the number of people that are currently experts in Chat GPT is pretty astounding. And so will it be useful for Web3? Yes. But just like all the other tools we've got, like having your MetaMask wallet on your phone is useful for Web3, it's another tool that we've got. We need to learn how to use it, what we're going to do with it, and how it can actually help us give better service and, better outputs for our customers and ourselves.
So let me just make one quick comment, because it came to mind as you were explaining all that, Michelle. I have a question. We are in Chat GPT version 4. Am I accurate on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did Chat GPT upgrade itself in this artificial intelligence? Or did somebody launch the new iPhone where people were lining up around the corner? And this is, so the point that we've been making on this show, or at least I've been standing on my soapbox preaching from, the guise of artificial intelligence to continuously push this upgraded software, there is a massive, not only human element, but a capitalistic monetary element behind it, which I'm not against, by the way, but I'm against putting it in the form of, well, this is a computer algorithmic system that upgrades itself and learns upon itself based on what you like. We have to really take a step back from that noise and understand that there's still a very, 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 very much a personal touch on all these things.
So you'll be happy to know.
The upgrade, Mike, is that it's $20 a month or $15 a month, and that's how it got to be better.
I'll tell you this, if artificial intelligence came up with that model where it was like, I've only been around for 100 days, look like I can start monetizing this for myself, I would stand corrected and I would announce an apology here on this show where people are actually paying money to this artificial intelligence that realized that it could be taking money.
All right, I'm bringing this back to Web3. Mike, to your point, Elon Musk is looking to put together a true open sourced opposition, let's call it, to OpenAI, where it's completely open source data and everyone can see how this thing thinks. We'll see if he does. He tends to attract world-changing types of people, so we'll see. To Michelle's point, prompt engineering, no joke. There's a website I'll drop in the chat in a second called prompts.chat. And I'm just going to read a couple of the act as off of this. You can tell this thing, act as a chemical reaction vessel, act as the Buddha, act as a proofreader, act as a technology transferer, act as a drunk person. You can go whatever you want to go. And then when you walk it down the garden path, and this is an important point, this isn't just cute. It gives you a better answer because it's telling it what databases to sift through for the information you need. So for those who are looking to use ChatGPT optimally, you want to never ask it the question up front. You walk it down first. You are this. This is the type of thing you do. You give it as much context as possible, and then you ask the question.
So hang on. You're telling me you need to define a system with specific variables, and those variables will be used to execute specific functions? This sounds like a computer program to me. Doesn't sound very intelligent.
The second part is, these are just best use
Come
cases
on, Mike.
for people to use ChatGPT. Number two is take the data it spits out at you and you personally overlay stories, your stories. This is your point, Michelle. Anecdotes from your life, things that you can bring as experiential application of what it's saying. The ability to combine the data with some real life, application. That's the skill now. It's not just this top 10 lists that all these 20-year-old gurus are going to spit at you. And the third and final point, take the content you've made and repurpose it back through ChatGPT 4 now. You can transpose it into other formats. You can use this thing to make your Twitter threads, to make your, micro content. So those are the three best use cases of it, in my opinion, right now. To the Web3 point, though, I think what I wanted to comment was in this article, social media, the term social media, becomes outdated when the content you're watching wasn't shared by a friend, but was promoted to you by an algorithm that's feeding you off your interests. That's really interesting to me. The evolution of social media that will happen on the back end of AI is that it's not going to be you and your friends chit-chatting and sharing videos. It's the machine trying to get you hooked on the dopamine again, Mike, to your point, for the ad dollars. So I think social media is the place to keep your eyes right now.
But again, it really feeds into an addiction that social media has planted about, needing that affirmation, right? And the term that scared me in that article, and you commented on it at the beginning, was AI personas. Again, what the hell is an AI persona, and what information is it going to think that I want at any particular point in my time? All that's going to be driven by ad sales. All that's going to be driven in some additional monetary component, which this technology will be able to provide. And again, if that's what the technology offers, I'm all for it. Just people need to understand that this isn't the gospel truth of the way that we need to live and understand the information that's available to us.
I have a comment on that, and it relates to Marvel, as always. For those who know Tony Stark and Jarvis, right? In the Marvel for those who don't know this, at some point Jarvis is turned into Vision, right? He's destroyed. And Tony has to reload his armor with a new AI. And the name of it is Friday. And I remember thinking it as a fan watching the movie, oh, he's got a new avatar in his suit. I wonder if it's anything like Jarvis was. Is it going to be a different personality? Like, that really went through my head. And I think that's where we're headed in real life, because Mike's avatar or Michelle's avatar or Mark's avatar will be trained on its own data, right? I respond in my snarky way. Mike, you respond in your tinfoil hat way, and Michelle responds very professionally.
But to that same example, dude, like, Tony's also saying in a ridiculous penthouse apartment, talking to himself / this computer all day, every day, right? I mean, that's his life. It takes the entire human element out of it. You can see it even in, in the movies and the personas of that character. Like when he has to interact with people, it's a whole different discussion, right? He almost seems out of place, whether it's because he's super smart and he's trained himself to talk to these computers in such a way. But the point is that we're sheltering ourselves further and further if we keep this up. And
Right.
again, like to Michelle's point from the very beginning, and we've said this on multiple shows, I know I've said it, this is a tool. This needs to be designed to help you accomplish something. It cannot replace what you currently do. It should be designed to help expedite certain components of what you want to do.
To quote my brother-in-law, Herb, the greatest invention for the advancement of humanity ever made was the television. And what did we use it for? 30-second ad spots. And so, to your point, Mike, I think that we know what the purpose of this whole, so far anyway, when it's in the hands of private interests, to your point, it's going to be about advertising and selling.
I'd still
So an
argue the
interesting
internet.
So an interesting thing today, Mark Schaefer, who we all know, and a lot of people who are listening would know, content marketer, author, done lots of different things, worked with, has been involved in the Battle Bunny stuff and had them in his book that Mike is involved with. So he sent out an email to his list today, and he asked ChatGTP to describe Mark Schaefer's writing style, because he's got hundreds of blog posts, probably thousands of blog posts around on the internet, and he wanted it to go and have a look and say what he said. So it described his writing style as, and I'm reading from his email, authoritative, direct, and to the point. And then he said, could you describe Mark Schaefer's writing style in the female voice, so in the voice of a woman? And it said his writing was informative and entertaining. So what it did was it toned down. It didn't use masculine kind of words. It used the more softer type of approach. And then he did something like, I've got writer's block. Can you give me the 3 best tips to be unstuck? So for guys, it was take a break, step away from your writing and do something that you enjoy, go for a walk, get fresh air, that kind of thing. But in the female voice, it was take a break and relax, do something that brings you joy rather than do something to make you relax. Go for a walk, do yoga, or have a cup of tea with friends. Now, he went through a whole series of things. And the crux of it at the end was that in the masculine voice, it was find the answers yourself, be alone, generate your own ideas. But in the female voice, it was about sharing the burden with other people, going with your friends, doing that type of stuff, doing more collective or group activities. So those sorts of things I think are an excellent tool that we can use when we're going, right, well, my Web3, I want to bring, say, female meditation consultants into Web3, into my universe. So how would I write in words and language that would be beneficial for that group of people? And that can help you with that. In the past, you would maybe spend a week or 2 weeks trying to do research and gather data, using this as a tool to give you clues of where you could look and where you can go and what you should use and how to say it, I think is going to be a good thing.
So there's an interesting exercise that I read and did, and for those who care, I won't preach. Ask the machine, ChatGPT, tell me a joke about a woman, and then ask it, tell me a joke about a man. And you'll be very entertained by the responses.
Well, I'd be more entertained if if this 100-day-old computer super, artificial intelligence item can actually define a woman, and people that are sitting in our government can't. So
all right,
that would impress the hell out of me.
Article 3. This is coming off of CoinDesk. Meta will end support for NFTs on both Instagram and Facebook. So Meta is killing its digital collectibles, which is interesting. That's the term we talked about last week. Their NFTs, which were being done on the Polygon blockchain, they are unfortunately firing 10,000 people on the back of having fired 10,000 a few weeks ago. So Meta is now seeking, quote, other ways to support creators, and possibly they're suggesting through decentralized social platforms. No, I'll leave Mike to comment on that.
Did you see my mum tut face when you were reading that?
The only comment I will share is coming off of Twitter and is not my comment. Someone wrote, quote, "Wow, that is a shockingly brief run at using NFT technology to empower creators," end quote. Michelle, we'll start with you. What do you think about Meta ending support for their NFTs on Instagram and Facebook?
Well, we've talked about it before. They had no strategy. They didn't know what they were going to do with it or how they were going to do it. I mean, there are enough NFT marketplaces out there as it is. They didn't need to give people the ability to buy and sell NFTs, and it was only a beta test and whatever anyway. They looked at, Twitter having PFPs and people putting their NFT as their moniker on Twitter, as their Facebook, or as their profile pic, and they thought, oh yeah, we'll give them the ability to do that. But other than that, what was the strategy? This is like the Porsche NFTs. This is like Coinbase closing their marketplace down. They just all went, oh, we've got to be in quick, which is a little bit, I'm sure Mike will tell us about, jumping on the chat GTP wagon. But they had no long-term vision or plan on this. This is CNN's, NFTs all over again.
I forgot about that one. Mike, what do you think?
And,
well, first and foremost, I really am not going to cry over the spilled milk of anything failing at Facebook. I really don't care. You're right, Michelle. They tried to jump on this buzzword, had no idea, no direction, started throwing money against the wall. Look, I think when everything kind of settles down, we're going to realize that the Facebook monster is not necessarily as powerful as it once was. Web3 has a big component of that, but I really think that they threw all their chips into this metaverse concept, and I don't think people are really entirely ready to jump on board into that realm yet.
So I'm going to tie this into a story coming off of Cointelegraph. Nissan has filed Web3 trademarks to trial sales in the metaverse. Nissan, the auto company, is looking to sell virtual clothes, cars, headgear, trading cards, toys, tickets, and the NFT marketplace. I feel like a lot of these companies, we've talked about this repeatedly, are looking for the quick buck. You said it, Michelle, the Porsche, their 911 NFT strategy, which bit them in the butt. This is not a get-rich-quick technology. It is an eternal thing that when you mint it, you have to then create value for it forever, or it's a rug pull, in my opinion.
So those in the English-speaking world, it's Nissan, not Nissan.
Sorry.
Just letting you know.
It's Japanese.
Isn't it a Japanese card?
Yes, but in Australia, New Zealand, England. Anyway.
What would Australia know about the Asian area?
I actually really like the potential of this announcement, because what they're doing is they're creating, it's like a McDonald's in the metaverse. They're creating a Nissan dealership, and you can go in and talk to the salespeople about the car, and you can pick the color and the options and the trim and the whatever, and you can order the car all within the metaverse. Now, I kind of think that longer term, that's probably where we're going to go, other than the fact that you can't smell the new leather or touch the metallic trims and stuff like that. Other than that, which lots of boy and girl petrol heads might like. But I actually think that, I thought they were doing a pretty good job in their initial thinking. How it will turn out, I don't know. If they do it for 3 months and then they stop it, then, well, they're just like everyone else. But if this is the way they're going to go, then I think it's got some legs.
Mike, what do you think?
I mean, homes are being sold like that now, right? Like you can take an Oculus or a VR headset, show up at a real estate office and take a tour of 10 homes instead of driving around town. They have these things available now. I think it's a gimmick. I don't think it's here to replace an existing salesman. And besides, you want to talk about the technology crushing a million other jobs, who's to say that an AI persona doesn't be the one that shows you this new trim and new color? And there's companies out there like Carvana, this vendor machine car purchasing concept, which kind of might pave the way for something like this. selling the jackets and the avatars and the merchandise with your logo on it, I think that's targeting the wrong people. I don't think any avatar is like jumping out of like Decentraland in their Centra showing it off. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
So for those who may remember, when Elon Musk first rolled out Tesla, he wanted to sell the car over the internet. And in the United States, he ran into problems legally because state laws here, you require a car dealership through which you can then purchase the car. So whether Elon wanted to or not, he had to have a Tesla dealership, which then means taxes and local governments get their piece, which is what he was trying to avoid. So my point being, the metaverse sounds great, and I agree with you, Michelle. It does. They're doing it. At least it looks like they're doing it the right way. But there's a politics angle to all of this. And this doesn't mean this is bigger than America, obviously. Every government, every municipality, I don't care where you are, wants their piece. And the metaverse is problematic in that regard, as was the internet at the beginning. And that's still being disputed. So I don't know where this goes, but it's not as simple as the tech works great, let's do it.
I think there'll be an IRS office in the metaverse, won't there? I mean, that's where it goes.
Funded with Bitcoin.
Tax men walking around to virtual doors and knocking on them and collecting his.
Oops, my battery died. Gotta go.
So article out of Digiday here is another one of our headliners, Gen Z de-influencing on TikTok. Marketers need to be more transparent. There's apparently a growing trend of de-influencers on TikTok. What is a de-influencer? In the old days, people would hype up products. That was the influencer, as we all know. But now there's folks who are critical of the products rather than promoting them. They're demoting them because they don't live up to the hype. And so Gen Z is pushing back on the whole concept of the content creator who is paid big money by the big firms to say nice things about that product. And in my mind, this harkens back to Gary Vaynerchuk panning wines, even though his dad sold them upstairs in the store. I think it's a good way to build authenticity. And in an era where people are not sure what's really happening, whether this product really lives up to itself, there's the de-influencer has arisen on TikTok. Well, I guess we'll start with you, Michelle, as the content marketing queen. What do you think?
So I think the other thing too that they've been talking about is, say Kim Kardashian uses X, well, I use this product instead, and here's why. So it's also that as well, not only about the fact that I used this product that she used and it doesn't do what she says, for example. Just as an example, no offense, Kim. We love you on this show.
Don't worry.
And so, I mean, having been in organizations that have paid influencers very large amounts of money to say really nice things that I don't think can be measured, your return on your investment can really be measured at all. I'd never liked it anyway. And so I think, as you said, like authenticity and having a community that follows you because you are authentic is what Web3 community building is all about. And this is where we can say, well, how does this feed into, having a Web3 community? And that's one of the ways you are authentic about what it is you do and what you say, what you like and what you don't like, and whether or not, people agree with you. Those that do will follow you along. And so it's an interesting thing. I mean, TikTok, how long is TikTok going to be around in the US? So that's Mike's favorite topic.
Speaking of, what do you think, Mike? Show.
So I'm going to take a different approach and to answer that final question, Michelle. I hope it's not long. The thing about influencers is that they have groomed themselves to sell their soul to the highest bidder, right? And I guess, they, again, are addicted to the affirmation on their various platforms, the thumbs up, the comments, the likes, the you're so awesomes, the, you're such an inspiration comments. With a de-influencer model, it's only a matter of time before Coke hires one of these de-influencers to talk about Pepsi. Right? Like, it becomes a revenue stream model in the wrong direction. And I don't see that being out of the realm of possibility. Instead of me paying you to hawk my product, I'm going to pay you to talk about my competitors.
I hadn't thought of that,
Talk
Mike. You're
dirt.
totally right.
Talk dirt on the competition.
Right. So there was a bit of a competition of who had the snarkiest, was it Twitter for a while? Do you remember this? Was it Wendy's? It might have been Pepsi and Wendy's. They had like whatever young people were running the Twitter, program for these companies on the social side back in Web 2, they made a name for themselves for having snarky responses. And so oftentimes the snarkiness was directed at the competition. For example, one of them was famously, and I didn't make this up, but somebody once tweeted something to the effect of, "I'm at In-N-Out Burger. What should I get?" And the Wendy's response immediately was, "Get out." And so the point is, I think we go there, Mike. I think you're right. I didn't think of this, that there would be the influencer, whatever the heck it is, hired by the competitor to poop all over the front. Yeah, I could totally see that. In fact, that would be fun.
It's a marketing expense, right? It becomes a game at
Yeah.
that point, but at the end, the influencer is still an influencer, just in the opposite direction. It's
Yeah.
the unfantasy of influencer marketing.
Yeah, good point. All right. Right now, I want to update people on the Starbucks Odyssey situation. For those who don't know, Starbucks Odyssey is their Web3 loyalty program. The Odyssey program for Starbucks launched a limited edition NFT 6 days ago. So Starbucks Odyssey NFTs sell out in just 18 minutes. This is coming off of entrepreneur.com. The chain's Web3 loyalty program issued 2,000 stamps, is what they're calling it, at $100 each, which are now selling for $1,500 each on Nifty. So there is a heavy secondary market going on in these things, which brings us back. Well, I'll save my comments. What do we think about this? Is this a good, bad thing, and will this be copied? Michelle, we'll start with you.
So what they did was, before they launched this NFT collection, they bought out their program, didn't they? The stamps. So they did obviously, given that it sold out, I think they did a really good education campaign for the last 3, 4, 6 months on what the program is going to be, what you're going to get for it, this idea of the stamps. And then when they launched their NFTs, they called them stamps, and people who had earned them in the beta testing before, got free ones. And then other people who didn't get the free ones initially obviously snapped them up, because I think the article also talks about secondary sales and stuff like that, up to $1,500 for one of them.
Crazy.
So, pretty incredible in that respect. So what does that tell you about how you need to have a community and bring them along with you on the journey when you move into anything new? And Web3 is no different.
Mike, what do you think? Good or bad?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's bad. Obviously, to your point earlier, they better come up with a utility component of this that keeps that value added proposition up. But we talked about Peloton either last week or the week before, and they are a rock solid cult like community too, right? So like it's only going to be a matter of time before they launch their collection and it blows this out of the water. I think the secondary market sales are always something that is of interest, because it keeps people engaged on some of the trending items, and some people like to jump in on that, which drives it up. But it could be temporary, and those people are going to buy in at a high price and then realize that they're still buying high overpriced coffee that they could easily get somewhere else. And it's a lose-lose situation. So they might hate Starbucks forever. Who knows?
To that point, though, Mike, they're not buying the coffee for the coffee, right? This is why do people have iPhones when they could get it cheaper for Android? It's a social statement.
Well, they like to order a coffee in this pretend language, like venti is like this size cup, but it's a status symbol that, again, they can get affirmation from. Right? You see somebody with a Starbucks cup, right away subconsciously, this is somebody that obviously has expendable income that can piss away $10 on some ridiculously named coffee that's made by somebody who's doesn't like their job, gets minimum wage, whatever it is. Like, look, the bottom line is that if people are able to buy into the concept behind the actual product, that's the hype and FOMO element that this NFT has gotten a black eye with. I think there's some good that can come from it. They're utilizing the technology, they're marketing it, they're getting more people onboarded into the space, all things I love. As long as, again, this doesn't turn out to be, well, we sold this at $100, it was $1,500, and 6 months later, it's selling for nothing.
So 2 things I'll add. One is, and I agree with you. One, I think that Starbucks has an advantage in that coffee is a very easily understood product. Like that, it matters when people are dabbling in NFTs and technology. I get that I can get a free cup of coffee. I know what that does. So I think
I
that has,
challenge you. I challenge you, Mark. Go into a Starbucks and say I want a large coffee, and just look at the weird looks you get.
I'm sure they'll correct me.
Venti, Grande. There's an episode of The West Wing about that.
It's
Yes.
like, no, I just want a large cup of coffee. Is that possible? The answer is no. You have to order it in this super special way. And the NFTs are going to be a super special way to be a part of this super special community that they've created.
So this is a culture thing. Like for those who aren't aware, in the Western United States, there's a burger chain called In-N-Out Burger, and they have special hidden menu items that if you're not a fan of this chain, you wouldn't know it. But like animal style burgers are not on the menu. But if you go there a lot, you know that's a special hot sauce thing they'll put on it. So my point is, companies try to build this culture that only we use this language, Mike. That's what Starbucks has done. I agree with you. A lot of people find it pretentious. I'm not a big coffee fan either way. But the second point I wanted to make was to Michelle's item about they've done a very good job of educating in before they roll out. They are committed. I don't know who's running their program, but they're doing a good job in terms of it's not a quick cash grab. They are investing. This is a la Facebook, right? With not just shutting it down, and they're trying things. Some which work, some which don't, but they're trying. And I think that a company like that, call it what you will, eventually finds success and then gets copied, but first mover advantage.
And the copy part, I think, is the important part, right? If they are, again, paving the way, making the investments and educating in the onboarding process, it just becomes a wash, rinse, repeat model that other companies can easily jump in and bring their people in on as well. And I think from the overall perspective of Web3 technology, this is a good thing because more people are going to feel almost obligated to jump in with the in crowd,
Right.
in whatever in crowd that might be in whatever corporation.
Final story. Web3 service Unstoppable Domains and Polygon Labs are rolling out .polygon domains. So this is coming off CoinDesk. Basically, Web3 is Unstoppable Domains is you can get a website domain, and they are expanding your digital identity across 750 decentralized apps, games, and metaverses on the Polygon network. So basically, users can send crypto and NFTs through their own proprietary websites, we'll call it, that are Web3 enabled, meaning you don't need any permission to do this. Mike, love to get your thoughts on this because clearly this is close to your world. Good, bad? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a reinvention of the same wheel that we saw with the .eth names. That was a huge thing, and it became almost like your .com. You needed the website in order to start the business. The digital wallets are confusing to people, especially when they see the long string of it. So if you can customize that, you can personalize that, and that string is attached to that particular wallet address. It makes people understand a little bit easier. Like, hey, this is my screen name in the digital Web3 world, right? This, everybody had an AOL screen name or a Facebook name that is potentially different from what their name is, a Discord name, whatever it is. Like now you have the opportunity to create this persona that's linked to your digital wallet.
Right. Michelle, what do you think about the ability to Web3 your website identity across other apps?
Well, I mean, it's not unusual, is it, that like I'm CM Queen on, all of my profiles, so Reddit and Twitter and the various different applications when I have to sign up and be content marketing queen, and that's what I use. So I don't see that it's any different to that. One of the things I thought was, whether or not, is it just really a play for the Polygon enthusiasts to, spend some more money and get a particular domain? I mean, we've talked about before, haven't we, that Polygon is looking more like the chain that rewards and loyalty programs are going to flock to. And we've talked before about blockchains making, sort of becoming more centralized in a decentralized world, haha. Sort of being more theme or topic based, so that all of the sports people will go to a particular one, and all of the loyalty programs will go to another, and all of that stuff. So maybe there would be a reason as to why you would have that type of domain, so that people would immediately know that that's where it is and how you can use it. But I don't know. I just think it's the same as like when .tv and .australia and whatever. It's
Well, from the
it's just
technology perspective, there is a big issue that I guess I missed in my response here. But Polygon is still a layer 2 off of Ethereum, right? So if you have a
yes.
.eth name, that can carry over into the Polygon blockchain, but does it work in reverse? Right? Are you able to basically create this .polygon name and have it filter up channel and upstream into the Ethereum network? My guess would be no.
That's interesting,
No,
Mike. That's a
yeah, I
really
don't think so
important
either.
point. I hadn't thought of that, and I think that again, we don't know, but if it's not initially, it needs to be eventually if it's going to work. So,
Well, ETH and Polygon have worked together, but it's almost a cascading waterfall effect in the sense that things from ETH can easily flow into Polygon, but going the other way has always been challenging. You have to bridge out, you have to, transform your Matic from your MetaMask and bridge that, and sometimes that takes 20 minutes to do. There's a whole onboarding process that still has not been perfected in the blockchain of Polygon as an individual platform. And again, if it's always going to remain a layer 2 from Ethereum, I mean, it's not like it's going to break away anytime soon. So it's still very much reliant on what ETH is bringing to the table, and ETH is still going to have the .eth names that are attached to that blockchain.
I want to remind listeners that nothing here constitutes any investment advice. This is just business discussion from 3 people who think they know a little bit. So do your own damn research. I also want to mention
Some
that
days more than others.
this week's episode is sponsored by YourOpsGuy.com. This is Web3 solutions that turn marketing costs into revenue-generating tools. YourOpsGuy.com. I'd like to go round robin for the final thoughts from both of you. I will summarize my interpretation of the trends I'm seeing. The 2 biggies this week, clearly, the banking situation is going to impact the innovation of Web3, in my opinion. And number 2, the evolution of Web3 marketing, we'll call it. This AI thing is a no joke. You don't have to love it, but it is definitely going to change how things are marketed. We'll start with you, Michelle. What do you think on final thoughts, trends, takeaways?
Perhaps we need to ask ChatGPT-4 which is the next bank to fail.
Yeah.
Wonder what it would say.
No comment.
You've got a subscription, haven't you, Mark? You can report back next week on your findings.
I would argue it depends who asks it.
Yeah. I think that we are starting to see threads of trends of ways in which people are using different tools and platforms as on-ramps into Web3. People are still sort of trying to find the deck chair, still trying to work out where it is they should be sitting, where they can get the best vantage point, because at the moment there's lots and lots and lots of doors in, but there's probably not as many doors, out. And so people are sort of having a look around. And I think that we're going to see some more of that. I like the Nissan thing. I like the Starbucks method that they've done with educating people. And I think that those are the sorts of projects that will be more successful going forward than the 18-year-old's ChatGPT course for $49.95. Sign here.
$499. Yeah, right. Mike, what do you think? Final thoughts, trends, things we're seeing.
I mean, once again, we're reintegrating the same talking points, but this is important because we're seeing it unfold in the market as we keep discussing it. This is a revenue-generating marketing tool. That's what this technology is in all of its assets, in ChatGPT included. As far as the financial element, the banking side of it, how this relates to crypto and Web3, I'm selling all my shit and I'm going to the Abu Dhabi and I'm going to be starting up my assets there.
Bring your tide.
If you don't know that one, you got to look at some previous episodes to get that reference.
So to that point, actually,
I want to know if you're a front loader or a top loader. That's all.
The truth is that Abu Dhabi, Middle East, is one of the big players that's going to attract a lot of crypto firms and investment, and that's going to become a pressure on the U.S. specifically and Western European financial system, in my opinion. Don't want to go down that road. That's a different episode, but that's something to keep an eye on, of capital moving around the world in response to things.
And I'll tell you something interesting, because Portugal in Europe is really the startup, tech-friendly come to us. We'll help you, they have enclaves where you can get cheap office and spaces and shared tech rooms and all of that sort of stuff. And I have been seeing a ton more of why you should be in Portugal ads since the Abu Dhabi $2 billion fund was announced.
So money moves around, good or bad. And when there's banking crises in the States, or where there's crypto regulation going on, like when things happen, money responds. That's just capitalism. People looking out. All right. So I want to thank everyone for joining us this week. As always, it's been fun. We appreciate all the comments and the listenership. We are back next week, 4 p.m. Eastern time, even if I don't get the time listed correctly on LinkedIn. I want to thank Mike Neubauer, Michelle Peterson-Clark, and I guess any other final comments from you two? Otherwise, we'll do it next week.
Subscribe to the show.
See you later.
Subscribe.
Have a great
That's
week,
right.
everyone.
Well, to that point,
Yes.
Web 3x3 on LinkedIn. If you guys could subscribe, we'd appreciate it. We're trying to march our way to at least one more follower. Peace.
Bye. Have a great week.